Alright, Steve, today we got something special. Not only are we going back to the clans, that bastion of smooth brain stupidity that just keeps on giving, not only are we going to be talking about the worst clan, one so bad that all the others basically shrugged and went, it seems like a you problem as the inner sphere was wiping them out, but we're going to be talking about the clan that was responsible for arguably the greatest strategic defeat that the clans suffered. You see, the clan invasion was broken at Tukiad, but that was a tactical defeat. Realistically, they could just withdraw and run away back to their homeworlds, rebuilding unbothered, something many of the more boneheaded crusaders wanted and tried to do. But Smoke Jaguar managed to lose the most precious piece of data in the setting, the entire jump route to the clan homeworlds and all of the navigational data about hazards, stable jump points, and even defenses at the destination.
That seems a little bit important. Maybe, I don't really know.
Yeah, it's a little bit more than important. It's a bit of a catastrophic fumble, one that eventually led to the Inner Sphere getting up and with the power of God's almighty military-industrial complex marching over there, punching the clans in the face and burning Smoke Jaguar's home to the ground. Hence why they are, affectionately called Smoked Jaguar now by the community, because they've joined that elite club of factions that have just straight up been obliterated out of the setting. They are no longer in the lore. Gone. All of them. But you know the saddest part of this, Steve? Or I guess funniest, depending on your perspective. This was an outcome born of arrogance. They thought, nothing could ever go wrong. Nobody would ever manage to slip through our infallible defenses. Nobody would ever manage to betray us or steal our data. These spheroids simply got lucky at Tukiad, and once we rebuild, we'll crush them. And they were wrong. Probably because they kept using McDonald's Wi-Fi to share battle plans and stuff. But hey, there was a hilariously simple way that they could have avoided all this. Instead of just leaving all their data and secrets hanging out full frontal for all to see, the clans could have used the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark VPN. In an age where the value of your data is going up by leaps and bounds and privacy is going down by even more, Surfshark offers a bevy of ways to fight back against or avoid all the pitfalls of modern data security breaches. With thousands of servers over 100 different countries, you can quickly and easily change the region you're in to confuse or hide from prying eyes. Maybe you want to be French for a day. Why? Who knows? But you can enjoy that sense of smug self-superiority. Or maybe you'd like to be Polish and enjoy every vowel known to man plus a few extras. Or maybe you'd like to be part of the greatest not-a-theme park nation on Earth with me in the Great White North. Not only do you get access to region-locked content, but by skipping around all over the place, it makes it impossible for interested parties to censor, block, or track you. No unwanted observations or data theft here, even in the horrible, mine-laden trenches that are unsecured public Wi-Fi. And in the comfort of your own home, Surfshark works just as hard to protect you from any malicious entanglements. Say some rogue telecom company decides to send terabytes worth of malware to you because you slighted them in some insignificant way, like leaving an angry comment. Well, Surfshark will parry everything from trackers, phishing attempts, malware, and more to keep you safe and worry-free. So if you're smarter than the average clanner, which let's be real, you probably are, then you should check out Surfshark through the link in the description or pinned comment. I'll hook you up with 4 months extra when you sign up, and if for whatever reason you're dissatisfied with the service, you've got 30 days to get a no questions asked and money-back guarantee. Anything you'd like to add, Steve Areno?
Does it work in cruise ship casinos, or does it not protect against those type of bad decisions?
Well, I mean, it'll work in a cruise ship casino, probably
It
not...
won't keep my money for me?
No, it won't save you from terrible life decisions. That one's still on you. Regardless, on to the video topic of the day. Clan Smoke Jaguar. And to start us off, Steve, I need to get you in the right headspace here. You must hate them. You must despise them. You must look down on them for every reason possible, even the pettiest, because they are the worst clan. People will debate this in the comments, everyone will give reasons why other clans are the worst, but no, they're all wrong, because I can scientifically prove it. I googled what the worst clan is, and Google decided it was Smoke Jaguar. There you go, proof, inarguable. I am right. The Smoked Jags suck. For in-universe reasons, they're also one of the most reviled and hated clans. You see, the clans generally have a code of honor, a really, really stupid one, but sometimes it's got some good points, you know? No artillery or saturation airstrikes, since it would hit non-combatants and cause unnecessary damage. No reprisal strikes against innocent groups, so, you know, burning down a village if a citizen shoots at you is kind of dishonorable, just kill the guy that shot at you. Ending battles with duels or small skirmishes to prevent unnecessary losses, very good, yes. There are lots of aspects that are genuinely really honorable or positive about the clan's system of Zelbringen, as it's called. And Smoke Jaguar is one of the clans that use and respect it the least, while shouting how honorable they are from the rooftops for all to hear. And they are, at least partially, responsible for it becoming widely adopted by the clans in the first place due to their brutality and casual destruction of everything around them. They will bully, lie, threaten, and strong-arm everyone around at all times to avoid appearing weak, even when they are. They became so unpopular that, like I mentioned at the beginning, when the Inner Sphere launched a retaliatory strike against the clan homeworlds, the entire Inner Sphere collectively chose Smoke Jaguar as the one to get slammed, and nobody protected them. And while the Jags were being quite literally wiped off the face of the galaxy, the rest of the clans just gave a collective shrug and a very firm, "That seems like a you problem." Like, imagine hating your neighbor so much that an active invasion is happening and threatening to spill over onto your property, but you just stand there and watch them burn anyways.
That's what we should have done with the French.
Where's the random French hatred coming from this video? Did I strike a nerve or something?
No, I just hate the French. I always have.
What? That's incredibly random. Why?
I am part French, by the way.
Ah, okay. Alright. Fair enough, I guess. Understandable. You would have more experience than most people, so I guess I'll trust your judgment on the matter.
I'm actually to fucking Napoleon.
Oh, well, in that case, my condolences.
Now you understand my hatred.
But let's start with how they actually came about. Like I mentioned, they were one of the 20 original founding clans. Their leader, Franklin Osis, had a strange beginning. He was deeply scarred by the Civil War and exodus of the Star League, his mental state further deteriorating as the Pentagon worlds the SLDF colonized fell into civil war, and when he joined Nicholas Kerensky on the Second Exodus, he did it as a way to escape from everything. He was never a violent or confrontational person, and was left deeply damaged by everything he had experienced. When they reached Stranamekti, he had spent most of his time wandering around the forests and mountain valleys of the planet, essentially trying to therapy his way into a healthy mind. When he was out on one of these expeditions with his brother, they came upon and observed a pack of smoke jaguars, the namesake animal that they took as their symbol. Failing to notice one sneaking up on the brothers, however, Franklin watched in horror as it leapt on his brother Simon and tore his throat out. And the man did not take this well. Do you want to take a wild guess what happened?
Did he, you can go one of two ways with this. Did he, eradicate all smoke jaguars?
No, that's too far.
Okay. Well, is it in the correct direction?
It is in the correct direction, yes.
Okay, he just eradicated all the smoke jaguars on the planet.
No, I just told you that was too far.
Oh, they don't live on multiple planets?
No, as far as I know, it's just that one.
Okay, gotcha. Did he build a shrine to it and start worshiping it?
No, that is the complete
After he
wrong.
eradicated
You know what? I'll just.
Yeah, you better just tell me at this point, because
so
it's not getting any better.
You know how a lot of people wrongly think that they could take on big predators? Like, yeah, I could fight a tiger or a bear or something and win. Like, you know those people?
Yes.
Yeah, the general consensus is that, like, no, you're not that guy, pal. Well, as it turns out, yeah, Franklin was that guy. Because with nothing but his bare hands and a small knife, like the kind you'd use to cut ropes or just, like, slice your food, and in a blind rage, he attacked and beat the smoke jaguar to death, leaving a mangled, savaged corpse behind. And something really did snap in the guy's mind, because that was the first time he had actually genuinely enjoyed violence, feeling higher than ever before. He's not doing very well right now, and it's only going to get worse. And at the urging of Nicholas Kerensky, he became a mech warrior, rapidly proving to be a vicious fighter that would absolutely body people any chance he got. Though it is kind of implied that it was more a form of glorious suicide, as he never really seemed to care what happened to him, only that he won in the end. Seeing the fact that this guy was essentially a one-man wrecking ball behind the controls of a mech, Kerensky basically went, okay, enough of the blood rage berserker stuff, you're going to officer training now to try and get some self-preservation and temperance on that battle frenzy of yours. Mm-hmm. The logic of this eludes me, because why would you potentially groom a semi-insane mech warrior to lead more mechs into battle if you wanted him to calm down a bit? But then again, good old Nick Kerensky was never a bastion of good ideas.
I mean, doesn't seem like a horrible one. Doesn't seem great, but it does not seem horrible.
Remember how I said that it would only get worse? It's going to get worse.
Okay, well,
Yep.
at that point in time, it was not horrible.
No, it was still pretty bad at that point of time.
Okay.
Anyways, eventually, though, this led him to becoming the first Khan of the Smoke Jaguars in the new clan system. A rapid ascent after only being in command of a trinary of mechs for like a year and a half, due mostly to how goddamn insane and effective he was behind the controls of his mech. Like, he got the proverbial votes to be Khan, but I genuinely don't know if it was people loving him or if nobody was stupid enough to run against him because of his raw combat skills. One of those try and run against me and you'll end up disappeared moments. And as it turns out, I was right. Being in charge of a bunch of other hot-headed mech warriors did not calm him down. During Operation Klondike, the clans invaded the Pentagon worlds to take them back from the civil war and the chaos that had happened there. Smoke Jaguar was sent to liberate a region of Irkutsk, and the Jaguars had already made a name for themselves before this with the torture and occasional case of forced loving on the peoples that they were conquering. So when a Jaguar mech warrior got into a fight with a random civilian worker, just probably because he stepped over the guy's workshop and then he was like, I can't repair your mech, you destroyed all my tools. The people rose up in a general revolt, fueled by the short but awful history of Clan Smoke Jaguar. Franklin Osis went, everybody pull back. And so the entire Jaguar force pulled out of the city. What do you think he then proceeded to do?
Destroyed the city.
Yup. They stood back and bombarded the entire thing with missiles, particle cannons, autocannon rounds, everything, until it was a smoking ruin. Almost everybody died. And those who didn't were easily, as the wiki says, subdued, which I mean, like, yeah, okay, I guess a half-dead man in need of urgent medical care would be easy to subdue, but like, I don't think there's much left to conquer at that point. And as the invasion progressed, they just kept doing this. Every time a village or town or city resisted, they would just destroy the entire thing, justifying it as like, well, they should have learned the lesson from the first city we burned down.
They ain't wrong, but that's kind of the Genghis Khan style of...
Yeah, well, I mean, the clans have a Khan ruling them, so there's a bit of Mongolia in there.
Exactly.
You know,
it
is
fits.
what it is.
Historically accurate, I believe, is the wording that we're looking for here.
This eventually got so bad that Nicholas Kerensky, supreme smooth-brain dictator of the clans, had to step in and try and calm them down a bit. It did not work, and led to one of the funniest interactions in clan lore. Because you see, the city of New Moscow was a prize. It was the goal of the invasion. Nicholas's glorious conquest to prove he was, I don't know, ordained by fate or something. It was really important as a victory, okay? But the city was putting up stiff resistance, and when Nick brought all the clans together to plan the assault, the Smoke Jaguars kept getting side-eye at their, battle plans. Smoke Jaguar suggests using artillery to level the entire city. Thanks for the suggestion, but we'll go with a different plan. Smoke Jaguar suggests using saturation airstrikes to level the entire city. No! Thank you for the idea, though. Smoke Jaguar suggests just nuking it. Stop! Stop. Just stop.
You would no longer be taking suggestions from Smoke Jaguar.
Yeah, it's just, their entire battle plan was just level the city to rubble, which is like, come on, are you even trying? Was there even an attempt? I don't think so, but you know. So they were so gung-ho to just erase cities off the face of the planet that Nick basically needed to do an emergency day one patch on the clans and start endorsing the ideas of honorable warfare of the Zelbringen we talked about earlier. This is really where that kind of kicks off. It wasn't like a core founding part of clan culture, but it gradually became more prominent as people were like, maybe we shouldn't just completely bombard cities off the face of the planet and keep this between like the warriors and stuff, you know?
Might be a good idea.
Overall, this is the kind of behavior that would come to completely define the Jaguars, and it only got worse as time went on. If somewhat curtailed by the clan's intense hard-on for honor and mech-based trials to solve their problems. Franklin was also, and I know, remember this is relative, one of the most fair and even-handed to the lower castes and less important people of all the leaders of Smoke Jaguar. He generally saw them as useful tools as long as they remained in their proper place to boost the warrior caste up. Then he died, and can you imagine what happened to the Khans afterwards?
What happened?
They got even worse, which I feel like is just the tagline of this whole episode. Smoke Jaguar, and then they got
wait,
worse.
it gets worse.
Anyone who isn't a mech warrior deserves nothing and should be happy to lick the boot of the warrior caste. They even went so far as completely stopping any social mobility whatsoever. Most of the other clans generally don't look at like the merchants or the freeborns or the civilian or the engineering caste, whatever, as anything particularly valuable, but if you prove to be a competent mech warrior, if you prove to be tough or like an exemplar of clan ideology, they'll elevate you in your social status, they'll let you become a mech warrior, you can even work your way really high up in most clans. So while they're brutal and generally really repressive, you've got options if you're good enough. But the Smoke Jaguars are like, no, if you're not born into the correct caste, that means you're born into the dirt and you will never have any opportunity ever. And like, it's not even a, oh, we're better than you, but keep doing your work kind of thing. This is legitimately a, we don't need merchants or scientists or engineers. We'll just start trials of possession or launch raids and steal it from the other clans.
Hey, I'm starting to see why the logistics portion failed now.
Yes. And then they launched lots of raids against the other clans. So, I want you to take a wild guess, knowing all of this. How do you think the rest of the clans viewed the Smoke Jaguars?
They were the most hated.
They were profoundly hated. The clans did not like Smoke Jaguar at all, because they constantly tried to steal shit from everyone else. Diamond Shark, also known as the Merchant Clan Moneybags, as well as others like Clan Wolf and Jade Falcon, were pushing farther and farther ahead by the time of the clan invasion. You know, new technology, mechs, weapons, all that stuff. And all the bad blood that the Smoke Jaguars built up came back to bite them in the ass because, surprise, surprise, if you kick down the door to a restaurant and steal from them, the next time you come back desperately begging to buy the new hot thing that's giving everyone else an advantage, they're either just not going to sell it to you, or they're going to add so many zeros onto the end that you may as well not even bothered showing up. When it came to the discussion on whether to invade the Inner Sphere, the Smoke Jaguars were of the most aggressive in pushing for a full invasion. In fact, they were the guys that actually suggested it at all. They were the first people that brought it up and were like, hey guys, let's start a giant smooth brain war to fight the entirety of humanity all at once.
Seems like a good idea, barely.
It was not. It ended horribly for them. Remember the spoiler right at the beginning.
What else can you expect from someone that doesn't know logistics?
Oh, the ending to their empire and the way that they got obliterated is really, really funny, because as it turns out, it's logistics that killed them in the end, or their enemies having good logistics that killed them. So their whole push for an invasion was motivated by three things. Firstly, they were egotistical dicks that just really wanted honor and glory and to kick someone's teeth in. Secondly, their prestige and power was waning. Every year that went by, the Jaguars fell further behind, and they had to rely on bluster and threats more and more to maintain their political standing. And third, they believed that the political turmoil of the Warden versus Crusader clan arguments and stuff might let them jockey for superior position in clan society and generally mess with Clan Wolf, one of their most hated rivals. The nail in the coffin, despite Clan Wolf doing a Herculean amount of carrying for the pro-peace/warden faction, was a ship called the Outbound Light. Because in Battletech, as we all know, everything is the Capellan's fault. But behind every Capellan, there's at least one Comstar agent pulling the strings. So everything is actually Comstar's fault. The angry telecom company had, in the past, found remnants of Kerensky's exodus, because even with all the secrecy, they still couldn't protect their secret data. Insert a second sponsorship segment here for the memes.
Hey.
And so, Comstar launched an expedition to track the route that the Exodus took and see if they could find out the fate of the SLDF in exile, because they had no idea what was waiting for them. When they got to the clan homeworlds, they jumped directly into orbit of Huntress, the Smoke Jag homeworld, in the middle of all the clans. They were just right there, in the middle of it all, while the political chaos of should we, shouldn't we invade was happening. Oh no.
This is fine. This is fine.
This is fine. So they were immediately captured, obviously, but capitalizing on this fortuitous event, the Khan at the time, Leo Showers, doctored everything. Granted, the information on the Inner Sphere was a nice update to the clans, but he massively skewed the data he found and hilariously just fabricated a ton of stuff. So much for honor and honesty and all that. And this isn't even things that would be believable, like, oh, the Inner Sphere has an idea about the route we took during the Exodus, so they know where we are. No, it was, oh, the Inner Sphere is imminently and immediately planning to invade and kill us all. They're on the way right now with an army. It wasn't stuff like, oh, there may finally be a change in the stalemate of the succession wars, because the Federated Commonwealth exists now. No, it was, dear God, the spheroids are on the cusp of a second Star League. Like, it was the most yellow journalism, sensationalist stuff ever, and it's genuinely amazing that anyone believed him at all. Like, imagine someone in modern-day political landscape is like, North Korea is about to launch a full-scale invasion of the continental United States. And you're like, are you insane? Are you okay?
Red Dawn's about to become real, guys. We need to prepare.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically how ridiculous a lot of this stuff was. The invasion itself was... Oh, how do I even begin? So take everything we talked about during the initial invasion of the Pentagon worlds, right? All that brutality. Now crank it up like 100 times. The initial few worlds the clans hit were just gone. The second wave began pushing into the Draconis Combine proper, the Red faction, the worst faction, but still only ran into undefended and minor worlds incapable of truly resisting. These fast victories, however, turned to ash as once again the Shadowcats proved to be hilariously incompetent rulers and didn't seem to understand that wars don't end just because you say they do. So even on conquered worlds well behind the lines, partisans and guerrilla wars raged, constantly draining resources from frontline units and often managing to assassinate mech warriors or destroy supply depots before disappearing again into the planet's environment. It got so bad and stretched the Smoke Jags so far that the clan had to bring in all of their rear line units, disgraced, old, infirm, the free births that they looked down on, otherwise second-rate units and stuff from the lower castes to try and keep order because they just didn't have enough manpower. This did not work, obviously, because every world they conquered was yet another hellscape of fighting and resistance, and as always, they fell back on brutality as a means to an end. Probably because most of the other clans actually made an effort to, rule the worlds that they conquered. Like Clan Wolf brought their entire logistics and supply system with them from the homeworlds, and they rebuilt their empire in the conquered territory. The Smoke Jags just showed up, blew up half the planet, said, "This is mine now, I own you," and then they moved on, and expected that to just be the end of the story.
Yeah, that seems pretty logical to me. I'm not really seeing the flaw here.
And unfortunately, once again, this is the Inner Sphere. They've been face-tanking nukes, bombed out cities, and continent-spanning battles for hundreds of years at this point. They do not care. There is nothing short of utter obliteration that will stop the Inner Sphere from fighting on. And by God will the military-industrial complex go to work when it's really let off the leash and all 5 successor states are working together. So the harder the Jags squeezed, the more slipped through their fingers, eventually culminating in the incident. Ultimately, it's not anything special like, oh no, you bombarded a city from orbit, whatever will we do? Average Tuesday in the sphere, am I right, lads? But for the clans, this was one of the most cowardly and dishonorable things they could have done. You're not even gonna face your opponents on the battlefield? You have to resort to the ultimate high ground? You think you're Obi-Wan Kenobi here? For shame. Face them on equal footing, you failures. Clan Wolf, of course, as the anti-invasion warden clan they were, used this as a perfect opportunity to make things worse for all of the clans. They did this by bidding away all of their warships and orbital assets, basically along the lines of, well, unlike those mangy smoke jaguars, Clan Wolf is honorable and doesn't need such a crutch as a warship. Insert obnoxious laughing here. But with the Inner Sphere finally woken up from the threat and coordinating together, the Combine pulled all the troops off its border with the Fed Sons and slammed them into the defense, dramatically slowing down and in some cases stopping the invasion outright. Their first defeat, the Smoke Jags, was on a world named Walcott, where a Cretan laid an ambush and managed to obliterate the invading clan forces at the cost of horrific losses. But they did manage to stop them and capture several Omnimechs and elemental battle armor suits to study and try and reverse engineer. And the tide started to turn from here. The crippling losses that the Jags suffered slowed their invasion progress down to the point that any hope of beating the other clans to Terra or Earth was at this point gone, and their morale was beginning to plummet. And to cap off the absolute shit sandwich that was, well, just everything right now for the Jags, Tukiad happened. The entirety of their invasion, the whole thing, had its back broken on Tukiad, but for Smoke Jaguar, it was arguably the worst possible. So not only did they bring 3 galaxies of their forces, which is pretty much all of their frontline combatants that they had, but they were so arrogant that they bid away one of them, a third of all the forces they had. And moreover, they had bid away most of their logistics and support units, because the meme of the clans not having logistics continues here in full. It's not a meme if it's true. The entire reason they did this was because they wanted to be the first ones onto the planet, so they sacrificed a third of their forces, and then they wanted to have the most prestigious and well-defended targets to hit, so they sacrificed a bunch of their rear line and logistics stuff. Geniuses, truly. The clan of all clans, ladies and gentlemen.
What can go wrong? They're just better than everybody else. I don't know why it didn't work.
Oh, dude, they got so obliterated, it's not even funny. The Comguard, under the command of mother-loving Anastasius Foch, pre-center marshal of the Comguard and hero of the Inner Sphere, ended up obliterating their entire invasion. So the Smoke Jaguar forces were destroyed utterly. Of the 2 galaxies they deployed, the vast majority were killed. So enraged by the Comguard kicking their asses, most of them even stayed behind, directly disobeying an order to withdraw and retreat. And this would cripple them forever, because it also killed off like all of their upper leadership. All of their leaders decided to be stupid and bite the dust as well, because we don't have any forethought here. Who cares about rebuilding when your entire leadership structure is dead?
There's nothing to rebuild. It is all gone.
And from here on out, for the poor Jaguars, it's just humiliation. Again and again, they got their balls flattened. They try to rebuild, and Clan Wolf puts Novacat into the same invasion corridor to quote-unquote help the Jaguars out. Now, this is a massive insult, because it's basically going, lol, Lamau, you guys are incapable of actually fighting and winning on your own. Here's another clan to help you losers out. But also, they hated each other. Yeah, the Jags and the Novacats were like mortal enemies. They hated each other, and they immediately started fighting each other. Because of course they did. There are no brain cells. Clan Wolf is monopolizing the single clan brain cell, and they're not going to share it.
Why would they? I mean, they get to watch this unfold.
It's an absolute comedy show of errors to enjoy with their popcorn from the sidelines. And like the utter geniuses they are, instead of fully committing to facing down the Inner Sphere, they resorted to their old tricks. You see, remember when I said they relied on trials of acquisition and stuff to get more war gear and tech back in the clan homeworlds? Well, they were going to try and do it again.
Wait, it gets worse.
Smoke Jaguar. It gets worse. So they were going to try it again. They mustered a galaxy of forces. This was the remains of the best shit that they had in the Inner Sphere at this point, to invade their very hated but nominal allies, the Novacats, to steal their shit and take their worlds. Genius, Steve. Genius. The Inner Sphere parried this as hard as possible in the funniest way possible. They sent the Northwind Highlanders, famous, infamous mercenary unit, to intercept this buildup. Not a small raiding force. This was an entire army.
You said the Highlanders?
I am going to strangle you through the screen. Don't you dare. You get one. You get one. That is it. They fought a protracted battle across the entire planet, mauling the Smoke Jaguar forces. And more than that, they repainted some stolen clan mechs with Smoke Jag colors, and then started raiding the Novacats to piss them off. So the end result was a super angry Novacat rampaging in and third-partying the ongoing war, crushing the Smoke Jaguars between the Novacats and the Northwind Highlanders. I'm not feeding you for a month because of this. I hope you enjoy it.
The listeners will. It's okay.
This is where things get Even worse, if that's possible. You see, of a few warriors that escaped Tukiad, one guy, Trent, no last name, because he didn't have one or didn't earn it, whatever, just Trent, okay? He escaped.
Trent.
Just Trent. The man, the guy, the myth, the legend himself. This guy was a damn good mech warrior. During Tukiad, he lost an arm and continued fighting through the damage. Eventually, he got it replaced with Myanmar, those metal muscles, meaning he had a funky robot arm and he could punch people hard enough to cave their chests in, which he did at one point, but he's an entirely different story waiting to happen. He also had the most kick-ass I'm done with this shit scene ever when he finally ended up betraying the Smoke Jags. He challenged another mech warrior to a duel of equals, trying to prevent them from just butchering more civilians because he just couldn't stand it anymore. And since she had a blood name and he didn't, she arrogantly refused, saying, "Ha, no, we aren't equals, you filth, I don't have to fight you." And he just looked at her, already aiming weapons on target, debated for half a second, and then killed her by coring out the cockpit of her mech instantly and dropping the most kick-ass one-liner in the setting before walking off. "You're right, we aren't equals." And then he just strode away with his mech to go defect to the inner sphere or some shit.
That's incredibly based.
Anyways, long story short, he didn't defect immediately. Instead, he was made contact with like a captured Comstar agent that had been like made a bondsman of the clans or whatever. She was a secret agent the whole time, but talked to her about defecting and escaping, whatever, and they made an agreement where all he would have to do to not only join the inner sphere, but be allowed to lead the invasion of the Smoke Jags, because Trent was so pissed, he's like, any loyalty I have is dead. All I want is to command mech warriors, and if I can do it while burning down my former home, all the better. On the condition that you bring enough of an offering to show you're genuine and that people can trust you, so you're gonna help me get the entire path to the clan homeworlds so we can go there and kick their teeth in. Now, the Jags weren't entirely brain damaged about this. They had plenty of security for jump coordinates and data, but it wasn't good enough because it was singled out to each individual ship. Each ship was expected or only given a single set of coordinates, a single piece of the entire route there, and they were expected to update it, wipe it, whatever, as and when they needed to. Because what they did is they essentially cross-referenced all that data with navigational star charts that the Comstar agent had, and clan star charts that they hacked into, and slowly, by siphoning data off of every single ship that they traveled on, they slowly built a complete picture of the route back to the clan homeworlds. When they eventually got back to Huntress, the Smoke Jag home planet, they even managed to break into the defense grid, getting accurate information on the orbital and ground-based defenses of the world. Because this is Smoke Jaguar, and it can always get worse. Remember that unstoppable juggernaut of inner sphere industry? Remember how the Smoke Jaguars are generally hated by everyone else? Remember how the Smoke Jaguars kept trying more and more desperate things to rebuild their strength? Yeah, well, this is what killed them. They did such a good job convincing everyone else that they still had some teeth left, that when the inner sphere picked a clan to make an example of, they went, Smoke Jags look strong. Let's pick them. We're gonna fight them. And then when we kill a strong clan, everybody will know not to mess with us. They successfully convinced their enemies that they were the best target for extermination. Good job, guys.
Really?
Good job.
Well, they were, just, not with that reasoning.
And my god, Steve, was it a sight to behold. The Second Star League slammed one of the biggest armies seen since the days of the First League into the Smoke Jaguar territory. The first waves of the invasion pushing them off of all their border worlds, the next one pushing deep into their conquered territory, and by the third wave of Inner Sphere counter-assaults, the Smoke Jaguars had basically given up. They were pulling all of their resources back, giving worlds up with only paltry resistance, trying to consolidate their forces, and planning on running back to the clan homeworlds with their tail between their legs to try and repair. But even funnier is that as they were doing this, the invasion chased them back all the way there, unbeknownst to them. But at the same time, while the Inner Sphere was slamming an enormous army into the Smoke Jaguars, they had also sent a second enormous force of troops to the Smoke Jaguar homeworld at the same time. 10 regiments of mechs alongside even more mercenary units, aerospace assets, tanks, infantry, and more. Well over 1,000 mechs alone made landfall on Huntress alongside hundreds of thousands, if not millions of troops. They practically obliterated the defending garrison and took control of the world, fighting a months? I don't remember exactly how long it was.
Telling me it wasn't days? I mean...
Oh no, it lasted for a while. There was a large running battle that took place over most of the planet. Anyways, when the smoke jags from the inner sphere retreated back home, they returned to find the SLDF of all bloody things, the thing they were trying to restore under their own flag, burning down their house. Nothing short of a galaxy-scale what the fuck, I'm sure, for those poor guys. Quite a bit of confusion was happening. And then remember what we talked about with the Nova Cats, how they came in and third-partied them, you know? They got sandwiched between two forces. Well, it happened again. All the Inner Sphere Smoke Jaguar forces landed to try and push back against the Second Star League forces and Merc units occupying Huntress. And then, surprise! The other giant fuck-off army that had followed them from the Inner Sphere chased them home and then pincer attacked them, landing on the world as the Smoke Jags were already engaged. It happened again. Smoke Jaguar. But wait, it gets worse. The end result was basically extinction. By the end, the only thing that they had from their entire empire, their entire army, Clan Smoke Jaguar was reduced to 9 mechs and 5 elementals. That was their entire combat-capable force. Elementals being like infantry and power armor, so not super special. And after what became known as the Great Refusal, they were all but wiped out. And so, the Smoke Jaguar clan ceased to exist, completely destroyed by the Inner Sphere. And the story of their clan is the story of arrogance, hubris, brutality, and an unwavering belief that you're right above all others, even when the fact you're wrong is literally killing you. We won't go too much into things like their military composition or their tactics because, I mean, aside from killing civilians, the Smoke Jaguars were very much the clanners' clan of clan mechs, you know, like, they were by every...
Clanners' clan of clan mech.
Yep.
Wording of all time.
Of course. They were by every metric distinctly average and unremarkable in terms of, like, tactics and unit composition and all that stuff. They were just way more brutal and eager to launch reprisals than most other clans for perceived slights or dishonorable conduct. They were also way more discriminatory than most of the other clans were, which is funny because they constantly do dishonorable things and the like. Whatever, they're hypocrites, who cares? And that functionally sums up the majority of Clan Smoke Jaguar's history, what they contributed to the setting, i.e. single-handedly managing to screw the clans out of the greatest advantage they had, losing the most important piece of data ever, and then getting humiliated, probably worse than every other clan. And that functionally ends off the video. I got very little else to say. Would you like to ask any questions or anything you'd like to contribute before we end out?
Not particularly, no.
Not really? Well then, in that case, to all the viewers...
Surfshark VPN.
Oh my god. Okay. You're only like an hour too late. That was supposed to be at the beginning of the video, but, you know, good job. A for effort. To all the people that made it this far, you're clearly the target audience if you did, so why not consider leaving a like, subscribe, comment down below, all that good stuff, because it really does help the channel out and is greatly appreciated. Especially for a smaller channel like this, fighting the YouTube algorithm can be quite a struggle. Or if you just want to hang out with fellow Turbo Nerds and kind of shoot the shit, we've got a Discord with a small community of like-minded individuals, and I stream on or around the weekends, most weekends. To all the people supporting the channel, a huge thanks to the arms dealers supplying all the tools and toys you saw in today's video for hands-on testing and making sure that we could really get in-depth knowledge of how Smoke Jaguar operated. To all of the food merchants making sure that my co-host is well-fed and alive for all of these recordings. Thanks to you guys, and to the coffee vendors making sure that I will always be juiced enough to keep editing. Thanks to you guys as well. One day I will never sleep again. And with that having been said, I've got nothing else to say. Outros are hard. Goodbye!